Hello, thank you for coming.
What will tomorrow look like? Our world is at its limits, and yet we all want more. And why not? Why shouldn't the future be better than today? But where will it come from? Simple. Our tiny planet sits in a vast sea of resources, including millions of asteroids, bathed in the sun's free energy 24 hours a day. The same rocks that could fall from our skies also contain everything we could ever need, both out there and down here. It's time someone sees the opportunity. Deep Space Industries.
The clip you just saw is the introduction from a promotional video produced for Deep Space Industries, also known as DSI. DSI is a commercial space company founded in 2013 to mine asteroids in space for profit. Their less than modest goal is to be the provider, and thereby controller, of key resources that they predict necessary for all short and long-term activity in space. As they claim in their promotional video, quote, DSI will be the gas station, the oasis for air and water, and the building supply center for the frontier, end quote. But DSI's promotional video demonstrates goals that go beyond the monopolistic control of asteroid mining and resource supply infrastructure. The video culminates with DSI's master vision of a future in which humans have a permanent presence in space, living aboard free-floating space habitats. Now, it would not be unreasonable to mistake everything I just told you for a scene taken from a blockbuster science fiction movie or television show. But DSI is a real company, and just one of several dozen companies, such as Mars One, Planetary Resources, Virgin Galactic, and SpaceX, that are changing the face of the commercial space industry by attempting to bring about a future where large numbers of people have ready access to space travel and a permanent presence in space. This new generation of commercial space companies is attempting to colonize the future from the present through a kind of ideological time travel. As part of our Western collective social imaginary, space is thought of as a frontier, the frontier of our contemporary moment. Rick Tumlinson, DSI's co-founder, chairman, and the video's scriptwriter, has stated in speaking engagements that, quote, humans are a frontier species. It is required for us, end quote, and that opening this so-called frontier will lead to free-floating space habitats, which he sees as the ultimate goal of a human future in space. Although space may seem empty of inhabitants and therefore open free territory, through the use of visual tropes from popular science fiction movies and TV shows, strategies of landscape representation used during U.S. Western expansion under Manifest Destiny, and through the neutralization of what critical theorist Frederick Jameson calls the radical break, members of the commercial space industry are naturalizing global capitalism and white male heteronormativity as the always-already system of space, while neutralizing science fiction's ability to perform cognitive estrangement. In doing so, they are pre-populating space with virtual subjects, colonizing the future of space for the eventual and actual subjects of universal capitalism. In this still from DSI's promotional video, we see a wheel-shaped space habitat under construction while tethered to an asteroid. It provides a brief example of the use of science fiction visual tropes in an attempt to represent an actual future. Although the full history of this design is too intricate to fully detail here, it is useful to note that it has appeared in popular science fiction films as far back as the 1955 film Conquest of Space, and since then has appeared in films and shows including the 1968 release of Stanley Kubrick's 2001, A Space Odyssey, and the more recent film Elysium from 2013. Not only has the science fiction trope become an easy-to-use symbol for a human future in space, it is DSI's long-term objective. DSI's culminating video sequence, mentioned earlier, shows the interior of its vision of the ultimate space habitat. This interior is backed by a swelling orchestral crescendo and the narrator stating, quote, "We can have it all. We can have an amazing future. The resources of space will lead to a new renaissance, both in space and back here on our precious Mother Earth. We are deep space, the frontier is coming, and our time is now, end quote. In his book, Archaeologies of the Future, The Desire Called Utopia and Other Science Fictions, Frederick Jameson argues that just as it is impossible to fully imagine a future outside of or after capitalism, it is equally impossible to ever fully imagine utopia. He suggests that the vocation of utopia is specifically to demonstrate our inability to ever fully imagine utopia. He suggests that then one's focus can shift from the impossible task of imagining what could come after the current system to the realization that for there to be anything other than the current system, a significant rupture would need to occur. This rupture is what he calls the radical break. For Jameson, the act of recognizing that the break is a necessary precursor to the arrival of any alternative system to capitalism is itself political and has the potential to inspire further political agency. So what then does DSI's vision of a utopian future in space actually offer? Here we see a still from their video that offers a glimpse into a space habitat home. Aside from several rectangular columns supporting the green roof, there are only 2 walls in the structure. This lack of enclosing walls suggests a habitat free from crime or violence. Additionally, such a structure could not exist in a habitat that had pests or nuisance creatures like mosquitoes, so they must be absent as well. The climate must be favorable to open-air structures with temperature, humidity, wind, and precipitation levels all held in an ideal balance. All of the furniture shown is that of a lifestyle of leisure and relaxation. The left section of the home holds a bed and what appears to be a wall-mounted, flat-screen display showing an image of fire. The screen's location on a large central column could be the front glass of an actual fireplace. However, the lack of a chimney protruding above the roofline, the shadows produced by the screen onto the column, as well as the logistical issues of smoke in an enclosed space habitat, make it very unlikely that this is supposed to be an actual fireplace. The wall could have been decorated with a painting or been left blank, making the decision to include the fire display noteworthy. It holds an apparent nostalgia, as well as serving as a visual representation of a lack. Whereas a lack of crime, bugs, and uncomfortable weather can be considered desirable, the idea of watching a fire on a screen in place of experiencing the real thing seems like a lackluster stand-in, and as visually represented has been reduced to a symbol. It represents human control and mastery over nature, as well as the incredible feats that are necessary to live in such a space habitat. By incorporating the symbol of fire, a virtual fire, DSI suggests that simulation is the best one can expect. This brings into question the verity of other objects in the habitat, even if they are technically meant to be real. The trees, for example, appear to be real, and very well may be, but the realization, whether made fully consciously or not, that the fire display stands in for and is not the real thing, denies a viewer and a possible future inhabitant the ability to fully accept this place as anything but artificial. Scott Bukatman describes this science fiction trope in his essay, The Artificial Infinite, as the, quote, archetype of the artificial city, where there is no more nature, only its simulacra, and no escape from the encompassing technological landscape, end quote. Since DSI wants to win support for its activities in space, it obviously needs to show a future that people would want to arrive at, and not some Blade Runner-esque dystopia. But DSI's final scene could just as well be a flyover of a Walt Disney World and offer mostly the same thing. The vision of utopia offered in DSI's video is so similar to our present that it makes the future an inevitable replication and extension of today. In doing so, DSI's vision of utopia suggests that the radical break is an unnecessary step in the path to utopia, thereby negating any inspiration for new political agency that the break could otherwise provide. If a viewer buys into DSI's vision, they are also buying into the idea that a better tomorrow, the ultimate future, can be reached through more of the current systems. A viewer does not even need to truly buy into DSI's vision as a viable future. As Frankfurt School theorists Adorno and Horkheimer say in The Culture Industry, Enlightenment as Mass Deception, quote, the triumph of advertising in the culture industry is that consumers feel compelled to buy and use its products even though they see through them, end quote. As long as a viewer accepts DSI's premise that progress, innovation, and consumer culture thrust into space will make their life better, then DSI has already begun to successfully colonize the future. I would like then to consider a cessation of looking to space-based popular culture science fiction films and shows for inspiring political agency. Instead, I suggest post-apocalyptic TV shows like AMC's The Walking Dead. The show follows survivors of a zombie plague-induced apocalypse as they try to survive. Gory effects and cheap scares aside, this series is at its best when it shows characters struggle with having to figure out what life and any semblance of society and culture looks like after the break. Characters and viewers are often reminded of the way things used to be by the visual presence of physical artifacts of their old ways of life, such as houses, cars, advertisements, and stores, alongside ideological carryovers from before the break, like racism, sexism, and classism. If characters were to experience some form of radical break and experience a better life afterwards, there would be little reason for them to focus on remembering life before the break, or to dwell on the idea that you cannot go back to how things were before the break, no matter how hard you might try. By specifically creating a post-break world that is undesirable, yet perhaps survivable, the realization of the break does not fade. Viewers are constantly reminded that something significant have to have happened to bring about such a change. Watching characters struggle with the realization that things are not going to return to how they were pre-break stands to heighten a viewer's awareness of the break and the necessity of it for radical change to occur. The fact that remnants of the break, i.e. the zombies, linger after the event that caused the break and continue to threaten the characters' lives also serves to heighten both the characters' and viewers' awareness of the break. A viewer does not have to want what comes after the break to be able to understand the significance of such an event, and as such, that the cause and form of the break plays a significant role in shaping what life is like thereafter. This is what Jameson means when he suggests we look to the break as a site of inspiration for political agency. Focusing on representations of the break act as an antidote to the future represented by DSI and its insistence that a better tomorrow is composed of more of today. Additionally, it serves to combat the complacency that comes with an acceptance of the idea that there are no possible alternatives. Focusing on the break reminds us that alternatives are possible, that our inability to fully imagine utopia does not mean we are stuck with current systems, that capitalism is not an innate human ontology, and that not through utopian hope, but only through the constant seeking out of loci that hold the potential to inspire political agency and focusing on them, can we perhaps create, in the words of Karen Barad, a future worth remembering. Thank you.